gosh, it was so much fun. Elizabeth, I always thought I would be a singer one day, but after listening to you, I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's all taken care of here at this campus, right? Oh my gosh, what a great song. How many of you were brought back to like high school or even before high school, your parents playing this song for some of you, right? That is so much fun. And we started that song, we started our service today with that song for a reason, because we're going to be talking about loving others in our new series called Intentional Acts of Kindness. Good morning. My name is Kristen Schoenbeck, and I am the new campus director at Birmingham, as well as teaching pastor in residence. And this is my first time to get to talk with you guys, and I'm excited to be able to do that as we unpack this new series. So my family has had a summer of love, honestly, and I wanted to introduce them to you a little bit today, but my two boys, who are 24 and 21 years old, at the beginning of the summer, last spring actually, got in a room and decided it would be a fantastic idea to get married within 3 months of each other. Right. Somehow I wasn't invited into that conversation at all. And that's exactly what my summer has been. So my 21-year-old, true story, 21-year-old, his wife turned 21 4 days before the wedding, got married June 9th. And we're pretty sure it wasn't a shotgun wedding. We're kind of waiting it out a few more months, but it looks pretty good so far. And I've got a picture of their wedding. They got married here in Michigan, and that is my daughter in the blue dress, who's 16 years old and is a junior at Athens High School. And that's me, and that's Maddie. I got all these new girls in my family. That's Miss Maddie and Mitchell, my middle son, and they both are finishing their senior year at Wheaton College. Mitchell plays football, and Maddie plays soccer, so they're super busy. We've talked to them a few times on the phone, and they're like, you know when you're first married and you really love each other? You remember that? Like, I just take you back there for a moment. And like, she's like, oh gosh, he has practice so late, and I have practice so late, and he travels on the weekends, and I'm traveling, and we just only see each other like 4 days a week. I'm like, oh, that's so great. It's so charming. So that's their story. And then my husband in the dark suit is, we've been married 27 years. His name is Paul Schoenbeck, and he is an attorney. And my son on the end is my oldest, Andrew, and he's in graduate school out in Grand Rapids, and that is his fiancée in this picture. But I have a picture of their wedding, which was last weekend in New Jersey. And true love right here, I'm just going to say, this is the picture that my daughter looks better than I do, and I chose it because I love her so much. I want you to know that right there. Because usually you pick pictures based on how you look in them, right? Let's just be honest. But this wedding was in the New Jersey shore, and we invited, 150 of our closest friends and a nor'easter at the same time. And I didn't know what that was, and I'm not a meteorologist, but I'm just going to say, like, my definition is like a horrendous storm that comes with 30-mile-an-hour winds, pelting sand sideways, and rain everywhere, and stays for 4 days. That's what it did. And her dream, Emma's dream, since she was 5 years old, was to have a beach wedding. So obviously that didn't happen, but we did move inside, and then we had a great tent reception until it flooded, and the winds were so high, true story, we had to evacuate. And we went into this little standing room only civic center for dessert and dancing, and once all of us finally got in the room, electricity went out. And here's the best part of their story. So, when the electricity went out, I hear my son belly laugh louder than anyone else in the room, and I'm like, this is his dream wedding right here. I'm not kidding. Like, anything that can go wrong, if it goes wrong, makes for a better story, right? So he's like, yes! Not so much his sweet little wife. She's going to need some time to be able to do this, to be able to talk about it again. But it was a crazy wedding. And I'm going to give you guys some inside information I didn't tell first service. True story. They left the wedding to go to their Airbnb that night that they had rented, right? And they went into the wrong one because the storm was so bad and it was so dark. And there was a man on the couch. And my son walked in on this guy, and he had all sorts of kind words to share with my son in the middle of the night. It is awesome. So, of course, that just adds to his story. That's just perfect. That's my crazy family, and I love them, and it's been super fun to be a part of their lives and obviously their journey. I've been blessed because of it. So today we are talking about love, but not the romantic love of all the weddings that we had this summer. We're talking about loving, and when I say the word love, I mean action, not a feeling, not the romantic deal, but action, loving the least of these. If you're anything like me, it's really easy to love people that love you back, right? That's what I do. I like that. If you're kind to me, I can be kind to you. And if you are my boss, I'm even kinder to you. And if you can give me a corner office, I might even be kinder to you than anyone else, right? Or maybe you can raise my social standing. It's easy to be kind to people that either can give us an advantage or will love us back. It's really difficult to be kind to people who don't love us back, who may not know our name, who may not even cross our path very often, who don't have the resources possibly to be able to pay us back in any way, and who may not even thank us or acknowledge what we did for them. That's harder to do, isn't it? It's really hard to love people that you get nothing back from. But ironic as it is, that's the exact kind of love that Jesus himself modeled for us. Selfless, full of mercy, lavish, and completely free without strings. Completely. And as we get to know, if we've been touched by that kind of love in our life, right? If you have had a moment with the Lord where you have been touched or given mercy or you understand that kind of love, your natural reaction is to want to give that to other people. To act like that in your world, in your day, with the people that you cross paths with. But isn't it interesting that sometimes those people that are in need are so hard to see? It's really hard to see something that you're not even looking for in your day-to-day life. We're going to check out this video.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
How many of you guys were like, yes, I got 13 right? You were like, yes! That was me when I saw this the first time. How many of you missed that moonwalking bear the first time? How many of you missed it the second time? Come on, you know you're out there. I can't be alone. It's crazy how we have our vision focused on certain things in our life and we miss the other things that are happening around us. When we were at the Jersey Shore this last weekend, the one day that the nor'easter hadn't settled in, we all went to a boardwalk, because that's what you do when you're in New Jersey on the shore, right? And in the middle of the boardwalk, they have these amusement rides, all these it's like literally an amusement park. And my son and all his groomsmen went on this roundabout thing. You turn and turn and turn, and then you just throw up afterwards. Have you been on that before? I actually went on one this weekend because I can't say no to my children. I have a little bit of a problem with that. So I ended up doing it. But as my son was on this ride, and it's starting to spin faster and faster and faster, the centrifugal force of the spinning pushes you back against the wall. And he's talking to this buddy who's right next to him as he's spinning around faster and faster. And he turns his head to talk to his buddy Brent and realizes halfway through the ride he can't turn his head back. Have you ever been in that? You're smashed against the wall and you can't move? And I thought, as they were laughing and telling me this story after the ride, I thought, that's my life. That's my life. I feel like I'm on one of those roundabout rides and I'm spinning faster and faster and faster and faster, trying to keep up with my kids and my schedule and my work and my husband and my dreams and my future plans. And I sometimes get stuck with blinders on, and I miss the people that God has brought into my daily life. And I forget to say thank you to the grocery store person who's checking me out. Or thank you to the tree trimmers that come and trim our neighborhood from the city of Troy. I don't even look or even speak to them. I don't even have eye contact anymore because I'm just in this place where I'm stuck trying to make my world continue to spin the way I think it's important to have it spin. And when I do that, and when we do that, we're missing out on the things that have eternal value. You see, we get stuck, our vision gets stuck in the wrong spot. And today we're going to talk about slowing down that roundabout, getting off the ride if you need to, and getting our eyes focused to see people that are hurting or that are in need that we walk by every day and we miss, just like the dancing bear. And I'm guilty of it. I do it all the time. As a matter of fact, I had a heads up about this message this week because I was prepping it. So I started thinking, I can't teach this if I don't go out and try to do it, right? So I'm walking the dog. That's my job. I'm the morning walker. My husband's the evening walker. My daughter's supposed to be the afternoon walker. It works. So I'm walking the dog, and I literally walked right by people from the city of Troy that were cutting down trees that were in the middle of the road, like blocking roads and paths and sidewalks. And as I walked by, I'm thinking in my head, now what am I going to teach about this weekend? And I'm, so spiritual. I'm praying even. I'm like, yes, this is awesome, Lord. Walk right by them. And on my way back, I am like, oh my gosh. I would never have even noticed these hardworking men sweating in the heat, ripping down vines and shrubs and putting them into a big truck that grinds them all up into mulch. I would have just kept walking. So I ran in the house and I did the thing that I know how to do, which is to cook for people. And I threw together a quick breakfast for them, and I threw in some coffee and some water bottles, and I walked out to them. And here's the thing. Here's what was so terrifying about this story for me personally, as I evaluated myself. I was okay with the making the food thing. That's okay with me. I can do that. The second I put it on a tray and I thought, I have to go out and talk to them. Oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Are they going to reject me? Are they going to say, are you kidding me, woman? Did you poison the food? Or are they going to take it? Are they going to eat it? Who takes things out of people's homes anymore? You don't even have Halloween candy that's not wrapped, And I'm walking out with these fried egg sandwiches. And I was so nervous, and I thought, Lord, what is wrong with me that I've become so inward focused, so focused on myself that I can't see anyone else? And I brought that food out, and they were so thankful, and they were so kind, which was a bonus feature. That wasn't the goal of it. But it was an experience that I really began to learn that my focus is so internal about my life that we need to get off the roundabout today. So we're going to talk about a parable that Jesus teaches in Matthew 25. We're going to dig into that. And a parable, for those of you who don't know, is a story Jesus taught in story form. And when he teaches in story form, he was able to explain complex, sometimes very complex theologies very simply for the people that were listening. So we're going to tear that apart in a few minutes. But before we do that, I'd like to ask the ushers to come forward, and we're going to receive our offering during this time. And this is one thing that I have learned about Birmingham campus in the last 2 months. You guys are generous. You're generous with your finances, and you're generous with your love, and you're generous with your care of people in your community. And so we're going to start the offering right now, and I want to just thank you. Honestly, thank you for that. And I also want to update you on Cliff and Angela, because that's partly how I know how generous you are. Most of you have, I'm hoping, gotten an email this week, but basically, Angela had surgery last week. She had 3 cysts removed. They looked non-cancerous, according to the doctors at the time, which is super good news. And her kidney function actually increased, actually became better after this surgery. So they're waiting on the pathology report this week based on the cysts that they removed. But everything really looks great. She's been home, she's resting, she's doing great. Cliff is with her and hanging out with the girls during this time of recovery for her. But what I know is you guys prayed like crazy. and you guys showed up for a prayer meeting, I think 60 or 80 of you strong on a Monday night, and you've been sending emails and cards, and your love for Cliff and his family and for your community has spoken volumes to me. So thank you on behalf of the Johnsons, but just thank you also for me to have been able to witness and watch the way you love. It's really cool. You should be up here teaching, not me. So we are going to talk about Matthew 25. So this is at the end of Jesus' life. So he's like near the end of his ministry years. It's within days of his crucifixion. So it's truly the end, within days of his death on the cross. And he's standing on the Mount of Olives, and he's speaking to large amounts of people, and he's talking about the future. He's talking about something that at the time, the people he was speaking to probably had no idea that it was actually the future that he was prophesying over in that time. And we're going to take the last of his parables that he spoke during that time, and we're going to talk about it. It's Matthew 25, verse 31. We're going to start at verse 31. And he says, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne." So what's he talking about here? So this is Jesus talking in third person about himself. And he's saying when the Son of Man, which is how he often referred to himself, comes in all his glory. All his glory. Angels all over the place. He's talking about future judgment, and he's talking about himself as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Isn't it interesting that's on the eve of his greatest humiliation that he would speak this way about himself? It's not over yet, he's saying. Verse 32, "And all the nations, you, me, people everywhere, will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as the shepherd separates the sheep and the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left." So I don't know about you, but I haven't seen many sheep or goats walking down Woodward lately, right? We don't live in an agricultural society anymore. So when we hear things like sheep and goats, we're kind of like Googling the images, right? But in this day and age, to the people he was speaking to, they were in an agricultural community, and they fully understood the difference between sheep and goats. They knew that sheep were herd animals. They lived in community. They depended on each other. They were safer together than apart because they got picked off when they would separate from the herd. They also knew that sheep were easily managed. They were docile. They were trainable. They were teachable. They would listen to the shepherd's voice, and they would respond. They knew their shepherd's voice. I had the opportunity to be in Israel several times in the last few years, and there are still sheep out there that are being herded by shepherds. And it was really amazing to realize that those sheep knew, there are multiple groups of shepherds, that the sheep knew their specific shepherd's voice. It was so powerful to me when I got to see it in real life. Verse 34, "Then the king," this is Jesus speaking about himself, "the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world.'" Can you imagine that moment? When Jesus says, "Come, take your inheritance." Let me tell you whose inheritance he's really giving out. It's his. Rightfully, that's Jesus Christ's inheritance as the Son of God, and he's saying, "Come share with me in everything I have. I give it to you. I give it to you." That's upside down love. That's not the way that we practice love, is it? He's saying, "Here, everything I have, come and share with me. Live eternally with me in my kingdom and share in everything I have." And then he goes on in verse 35 to explain, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." I've had some time this week to study that verse, those two verses, and I've been thinking about them a lot. Because if you've been in church for any period of time, you've probably heard this before, honestly. And in the past, for me, it's always been like, ugh, I'm a failure. Oh, God, please, Lord, this isn't for me. I'm never good at this stuff. And I started reading it and looking exactly at what Jesus was saying, and he wasn't saying, when I was in prison, you released me. You freed me. He didn't say, when I was sick, you healed me, did he? He said, when I was sick, you put a wet washcloth on my head. And when I was in prison, you came and you picked up the phone and you looked at me in the eyes through that plexiglass wall and you spoke to me like I was a human. And when I was thirsty, you got a cup of water from your sink and you just handed it to me. You see, anybody can do these acts of kindness. It's not like you have to fix the problem. See, I'd rather just fix your problem. I am a mom. That's what I do, right? You have a problem. Let me just make it go away because guess what? When I make your problem go away, it is easier for me. It's now no longer my problem. But that's not what the scripture is saying. Jesus is saying, when I was sick, you stayed with me. When I was in prison, you visited me. He's not asking us to fix it. He's asking us to sit in the middle of it and look at the person in their eyes and love them. Honestly, it's harder. I'd rather look at the problem and not the person. But that's not what Christ is asking us to do. Helen Keller said, walking with a friend in the dark is better than walking alone in the light. That's what Jesus is asking us to do. See, those are the things that have eternal value. Those are the things that someday we're going to stand before God and he's going to say, Kristen, how have you loved me? Do you love me? And then he's going to say, Kristen, how have you loved others? That's it. And these are the things that we get to carry with us. How we treat the people that God has placed in our hand every single day is what goes and has eternal value. The good works mentioned in this parable are not the cause of salvation, they're the effect of salvation. See, Scripture is clear multiple times that we are saved through grace, not through works. We are saved based on what Jesus Christ did on the cross by dying and by rising again from the cross. He took the punishment that we deserve, and if we have faith in him, we are saved. Game over. But if you know that Savior and you know that upside down love, the effect of that is that we have the ability to show that love to the people around us. Verse 37, then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in? Or in needing clothes and clothing you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you? And Jesus responds. The king will reply, verse 40, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and my sisters, you did for me. See, the surprising object of this kind of intentional kindness, this intentional love, this behavior that doesn't make sense and we don't get any kind of payback for it, the surprising object is that we are doing it for Jesus Christ. That he's the recipient, he's a beneficiary. It's a 2-for-1 deal. You get to help someone in need, and you also are co-laboring with Jesus. You're relieving his burden somehow. And here's the crazy part, that someone like you and I, the broken people that we are, honestly, get to affect the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings in our daily life by loving someone in our path. That's powerful and has eternal value. See, love is an action. St. Francis of Assisi says, preach the gospel always, and when necessary, use words. Preach the gospel always, and when necessary, use words. 1 John 3:17, if anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but in actions and in truth. They will know we are Christians by our love. How we treat one another and how we treat the world around us spotlights who God is. So, what does this look like? How do we actually practice this? Well, we have a little video. It was a lot of fun that we made a few months ago of some people going out on the town, Richie and Amanda, with an idea of how to begin intentional acts of kindness. Check this video out.
Hey everybody, my name is Richie Christie.
I'm Amanda Kozlowski.
And we have something really exciting that we get to be a part of today, don't we, Amanda?
Yes, I'm super pumped. We get to go to a bunch of diners today. We're gonna order a little bit of food and then
we are going to leave a huge tip to absolutely bless these people and show them that they're loved.
I can't wait. It's gonna be so awesome.
Yes, so here we go. Get ready. Amanda and Richie shooting a video. It's going great.
My name is Dorita.
Awesome. How long have you worked here
I worked
for?
here 7 years. I have 4 kids.
4 kids?
Wow.
He was born okay, but he had tetralogy, like when you have holes in your heart.
We're in our second restaurant, number 2. Excited. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling like mozzarella cheese sticks. What are you?
My name's Nikki.
Nikki, have you worked here for a while?
Yes, on and off since I was 15.
No way.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're like the
1
Nello's
year.
legend.
Oh my god.
She's definitely the veteran waitress here, so we're really excited to have her.
Definitely on purpose that we got her.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
What's the
definitely.
worst part about waitressing?
The worst part is I do feel like people do talk down to us quite a
Yeah.
bit. So that is a downside.
Diner number 3.
This lady's freaking awesome already.
She's fun.
She's the only waitress here. She's answering the
Taking
phones.
care of the whole restaurant.
Taking care of the bar, the whole restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fun.
I've been at Hamble since 2014.
Awesome.
Okay, sweet.
That's
Any
so
kids?
No kids. No
kids?
kids. We just got married in August.
Oh, congrats! That's awesome.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Just talked to our new waitress. She just got here like 20 minutes ago. So
It's a pretty good start to the day. Yeah. What's your name?
Angie,
Angie.
Awesome.
How long have you been working here?
almost a year.
Almost a year. Sweet. How long have you been waitressing like in general?
Over 20 years.
Wow.
You have kids too?
Yeah, I have 3 kids. 2 girls and a boy.
Awesome.
Cool.
What's it like being a girl mom? I don't know about that yet. Yeah, that's what Ray said.
So this one's a little bit special. We let them know that we're from Kensington because she's like a famous waitress at the
Yes,
diner.
we come here all the time and have her all the time, so we're really excited to get to do this. Thank you
Thank you so much. Seriously, you the bomb. wait, hide it.
All right, we're about to leave our awesome tip. We're really pumped to see what she says. I don't know.
I ate all my salad.
He did not eat all his salad.
All right, update. We're leaving. Didn't order much, so she might be a little upset. She's not gonna be that upset in like 5 seconds. Because you're awesome.
God, I feel so bad. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
They only charge like $12, and I think this is wrong. Like,
No, it's right, and you
That was
you
the
deserve
joy
to
of
be
it.
blessed.
That was so seriously.
Yeah.
I really get to keep it. I'm like,
Yes.
Absolutely. No,
No.
it's yours.
and I get to give it back to
You've been working here since you were 15. Like, that's crazy.
Are you serious? Oh my
That's serious.
You're awesome.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm in there like, I don't know if you're taping me.
Well, Well, thanks, Angela, for waiting on our table today.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Have a good day. Seriously. Alrighty. Yes.
You guys were together. I knew it! Are you serious? Is that a joke?
You guys are all together.
You're all together! Oh my god! Are you guys serious? What is this?
This is the best day ever for the best waitress
Are you
ever.
guys today? I let Crystal take all the tables. And I said, I don't care, man. And then I paid for Bob's food. I was like, I got Bob, you know? And
That's
dude,
so
that's
nice.
God, man.
For sure.
That's gotta be God. Because no, I know, but like it's weird how it happened.
Bye, Bianca.
man.
So nice meeting you.
See ya. Have a good day.
Isn't that awesome? I don't know if you noticed at the end of the video, it had in yellow, are you sure it's not those 6 people? And I didn't understand for a long time that actually that's what the cook was saying. The guy that was behind the waitress, he actually said, like, are you sure it's God? Are you sure it's not those 6 people? So I just think that's so funny because here's the thing. All we're doing is showing acts of kindness. It's on God to figure out if it's going to be something where the person's ready to actually say, this is God. This is so ironic in my life based on my timing, based on what's going on, that I'm going to attribute this to something greater than myself right now. This has to be God. And others will be like, yeah, no, dude, that was like a lot of money from that church that had nothing to do with God, right? But that's not on us. That's the Lord. That's up to Him. It's so crazy when I was watching this video and I know Richie and I know Amanda, and I thought, my gosh, everyone's going to be like, gosh, I better have a lot of money for this program. Like, I better make sure I have hundreds of dollars in my wallet at all times. But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to do with money at all. Your acts of kindness can be literally a note, a kind word, a bacon and egg sandwich that you run out with fear and trepidation to some people in your neighborhood. And some of you already are like ticking off names, like you're like, yep, these people need to hear it. I want to say this, I'm going to do this. That's my husband. When we were going through this, he literally was like, okay, we need to have these people over for dinner. We need to do this, this, this. And me, on the other hand, I'm like, wait a minute. I got to spend some time with the Lord on it. And that's what I'm asking you to do this week. I'm not asking you to come up with a list right now. We're not collecting it. It's totally up to you. But I am asking you to spend time with God. I am asking you to grow your faith. I am asking you to depend on Him to lead you this week to whoever you might see, and then obey. See, that's the trick. We get nudgings from God all the time, don't we? And we can just kind of push Him aside. But I'm asking you this week to obey. So I'm going to ask ushers to come forward right now. We have a little system. This is going to be so much fun. In the next 3 weeks, we're doing this series, Intentional Acts of Kindness. And we have little cards we're going to pass out. Can somebody throw up a set of those? Thank you so much. Awesome. Okay. So we have a couple different things we've done. We've put together for you to use. And the first is these little pass it on cards. And they're small on purpose. You can throw them in your wallet. You can throw them in your purse, back pocket. And these cards to serve as multiple reasons. One, they're reminders. So you can remember, hey, because it's easy to forget after Sunday what happens Monday through Saturday, right? Hey, I want to go and be intentional this week to show kindness to someone who's in need. There you go. This will remind you. And you can choose. You see, they're anonymous. They don't say Kensington Church. They don't have your name on it. You can just leave this whatever God leads you to do, you can leave this if you want to. The fun of this is that we have 15,000 people at Kensington this weekend that are getting 3 cards each. You guys do the math. So if 45,000 acts of kindness happen this week, and then a few people get these cards and they choose to continue, right? What kind of ripple effect will that be in our communities? Birmingham, Royal Oak, all the way north. We go to Clarkston, Orion, Traverse City. How cool will this be? And no one will know who or why they're doing it. Isn't that fun? So that's an option. You don't have to use these. There may be times you're like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. But that's okay. This is just an option for you to use. Then next week, because we want to celebrate this, next week we have out in the lobby on that, we have that prayer wall that we have every week that you guys can put prayer requests on. Well, we're using one side of it for the Intentional Acts of Kindness board, and we have little cards that you can write anonymously what you did. Because this isn't all about me. It's really about you growing in your faith with the Lord and doing some things to act in kindness to others. And then we get to read them and have fun and celebrate what God's doing in our community, because there are going to be stories like this. There are going to be some really cool stories that God's going to work in our community, and I want to be a part of the celebration of that. Don't you? So next week when you come back, look for that board and write down what happened this week and put it up there without your name on it. This is something you can do with your kids. This is something you can do with your small group. If you're not in a small group, go and get in one today. Do it. It's going to change your life. They're awesome. But this is something that you don't have to do alone. So, are you guys in? You gonna do it? All right. I'm going to close out the service today with a story. This is a story that I heard from Steve Andrews years and years ago. It was one of the 3 biggest influences that caused him to want to launch a church. And it has affected me. I can't get this story out of my mind. William Booth, he was born in the 1800s into a impoverished family. They didn't know who God was at all. He grew up in this family, and when he was a child, there was a vicar down the road that began to tell him who Jesus was. And he began to follow on this spiritual journey of knowing who Jesus was and began to follow him. And somewhere after he was married, he was on a coach, which is a train, and he was looking out the window, and he felt like God gave him this picture, this story, that was basically the root of him beginning the Salvation Army Church. He was the founder of the Salvation Army Church. And this is the picture that he got that day. He saw these dark, dark clouds and this dark, dark sky, and it was windy and it was raining, and there was thunderbolts coming down on the ocean. In the ocean, the waves were huge and they were piling up on each other, and it wasn't safe. And then he began to realize, as he looked into this picture even more, and it became more revealed to him, that there were people in that water. People like you and me, they were in that water, and they were struggling every breath. They were struggling to get up on top of the waves so that they could catch a breath. And there was no hope for them. He saw there was no hope for them at all. And then to his delight, out of the water came this huge rock. This fortress came up right in the middle of the ocean. And around this fortress was this vast platform that he saw being built. And he began to see people being pushed and getting up on that platform. And he realized that Jesus must be in that rock. He must be pushing people and drawing them to him. And they would get up on the platform, and these people would be safe. They were no longer in the waves, tossed about by the sea. They were safe. And people responded 2 different ways once they were on that platform. Some of them immediately turned around and put a hand out for the guy that was right next to that platform struggling in the water. And others dove into the water in search of anyone that needed help. But then William noticed something else about people that were on that platform. Often the people that had been on the platform for a longer period of time. Instead of turning around and looking at the people that were in need, they looked at the rock, and they saw Jesus in the rock, and they were pressing toward the rock, and they were praising and singing songs to Jesus facing the rock. And they would sit in small circles, and they would discuss clever ways to help the people that were drowning in the water. And they would go over deep theological concepts, and they would even read scripture out loud, all the while facing the rock with their backs to the drowning people behind them. And what they didn't know that Jesus wasn't in that rock. Jesus was in the water. Jesus is still in the water. He was in the water, reaching his hand, grabbing the people and pushing them to safety. And he called out to the people on the platform, come help me. Come help me. Will you help me? And he's still calling us today the same exact way. Will you help me? He says. Jesus takes on the burdens of every single person. He feels their pain. That is his job. He decided to take that job on himself. Scripture tells us that he does that. He carries our burdens for us. When we're in pain, he's in pain, and he's saying, help me, will you help me? Will you get wet? Will you dive into the mess? Will you sit with people that you don't have a solution for, who are sobbing, and will you sob with them? Will you stay with them? Or will you stay on the platform and be safe? See, you have a choice. I have a choice. We have a choice. We can jump into the things that drive the heart of Jesus Christ himself. Or we can back up and we can protect ourselves. I want to go swimming. I want to go swimming. Listen to this song.